Okay, thank you for joining us for our normal episodes of Bloodhound Pix. As always, I am one of your hosts, Craig,
I'm Kyle.
And this is Josh.
and this episode it is a Kyle Pix episode. So obviously there's going to be some brutality. And we'll get into it more of doing Evil Dead Trap 1 and 2 from Japan. I'll let Kyle go.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to talk about the first one first. So Evil Dead Trap from 1988, directed by Toshiharu Ikeda, who is famous for making Japanese pink films, which are kind of like softcore porn, but technically a Japanese pink film is any film that has nudity in it, because they're kind of, at least especially back then, were not, wasn't allowed, I guess, to have nudity. He's also famous for a film called Mermaid Legend from 1984. That's supposed to be like really good. It won a bunch of like awards and stuff, and that's supposedly his best film. And I think it was all downhill from. I think that was like his first film. But yeah. So Evil Dead Trap. First off, it has nothing to do with Evil Dead.
No.
Which is kind of a good thing once it starts. Like, they're not trying to rip off Evil Dead. They clearly just tried to steal the name for marketing purposes. But so basically, it's about a TV reporter who gets a videotape that's leading them to this abandoned factory of sorts. And then you see this woman get tortured and murdered, and her eye gouged out, just like in Fulci's Zombie. Yeah. And so, of course, they decide they got to go to this factory and get this hot story because it's hard being a woman in the TV news biz. And then people get picked off one by one. And then I think what it's worth it. Well, the best part is the twist of who the killer, what the killer is. And this is also apparently known as like the first Japanese splatter movie, or the first like modern Japanese horror film. But yeah, I'll throw it to you guys to hear what you think.
So no, it makes sense that he did pink films. I will say I had something that I forgot now that I was going to add on to it. Yeah, she works a late night kind of show where it's basically a snuff film that they get. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, they don't just, we'll be clear, they don't just get killed. Like, for some reason, there is, in this movie, a lot of, why I brought up the pink film thing, there's a lot of pointless, it seemed, rape scenes.
Oh, I should add really quick. Yeah, they like gratuitous rape scenes. I should also add that so a lot of the actors were Japanese porn stars, especially the like first girl that gets killed.
Okay.
And I think like the lead girl was actually an actress, but a lot of the other people were. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it makes more sense. I remember I was going to say there will be spoilers because of the ending. So.
Oh yes.
For those of you listening, but no, I don't know if I'm just getting older or what, but I found myself watching it, and like there's the scene where I forget all their names, but where the only guy that goes with them to be their chaperone, as they put it, basically, that he basically tells one of the girls who's been pushing him off the whole time that he's horny. She still is pushing him off, saying no. Then the next scene, having sex. Well, he kind of forces himself on her.
Well, they like had a relationship, clearly.
Yeah.
But you're forgetting her best lines in that part, because I literally wrote this down because he was like talking about not being able to get it up, and she said, "You were impotent, not weird." Yeah. And then he says something else, and she just says, "Stop talking about your penis."
Yeah. And so, no, because so the ending is right up my alley. So it's hard because I'm conflicted about the ending, and then but there's so many scenes in it where it seems like they a part of the building is either blown up or on fire or falling apart. She runs away after this one character is shot, hit, whatever, multiple times. And then somehow moments later she ends up back in that same room where then they'll have another conversation. And so yeah, there were point and like by halfway through the film, it kind of felt like it was almost wrapping up. I think because the rest of the cast, again, spoiler alert, dies by I'd say like 45 minutes in, and it's an hour and 40 or something. Yeah, I don't have much to say. I don't know. It was a hard one to watch for me. I mean, there were elements that I really liked, but it was definitely extreme Japanese in certain senses, especially in kind of the sexualness of it. I'll let Josh talk.
Yeah, it was funny to me, the amount of like weirdo sex shit, even in both of them. But I think honestly, one of the things that stuck out to me, or one thought that I kept having, is how much the filmmaker was in love with Fulci. I mean, we already mentioned the eyeball trauma. Was it not Giallo-esque too, in that they did the classic Fulci thing by using the same bit of score repeatedly, but just using different instruments to play it? That's the most Fulci thing I can think of to do after eyeball trauma.
Yeah. And it was masked.
Right, and
Killer,
the guy that was killing people had the mask on. It was like
and all black or whatever.
yeah, and it's that was my biggest takeaway was this does not seem like a Japanese film to me. I mean, I think the weirdo sex stuff was about the only thing, because otherwise it was almost like it felt like the filmmaker was just imitating Lucio Fulci and not really doing a good job of it either. But in terms of the plot not making any sense, especially after about, well, I guess what would be the first act type 25 minutes, because up to that point it wasn't hard to follow, but then it was just like I have no idea what's going on in this movie. Like, I literally don't. It was funny too, because I was this obviously was first, but it reminded me a little bit of like the killer guy. He was almost like working in the same sort of like MO as like Jigsaw.
I can see that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, there was the one kill where all those like fucking spikes go into that chick, and then there was the other one where he had like the wire going across the floor and the person like hit it. You know what I mean? It was like, it was very, I was reminded of like a Jigsaw type MO. So that was interesting too. I mean, obviously this was before, Saw was ever a thing, but yeah, it was go ahead, Craig.
Oh no, I was gonna say, yeah, there was, even though, as like you said before, and a good 14 years prior, there are many moments where I could see people saying it enters into like that torture porny kind of feel.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, it really feels like a precursor to all that, in a big way. I don't know if people saw this or not. I think the most, I mean, there is no plot after 25, 35 minutes in.
No, and it's just funny because it's so, obviously it's very, simple and easy to understand, the setup and what they're doing. And then it literally is like, it all just goes out the window. And
Well-
it's like, I have no fucking clue what this is doing.
Well, the thing that got me is that, so again, this we'll be talking about explicit material. There is a rape scene in terms of, so a guy who was captured by the main villain antagonist is going to kill her, but then he wants to do it slow, so he's raping the woman, but then she's interrogating him. They're having a conversation while he's doing it. And then
Dude, that was so fucking weird.
yeah, and then I don't know, it's one of those that then it doesn't go anywhere, because normally, if talking about, for example, like Last House on the Left or films that deal with that subject matter, like that happens, and then it's either the female survives or gets vengeance, or somebody gets vengeance, where that is kind of like it happens to her and then she instantly gets killed by by something else. It's
Well,
like,
the guy gets killed first.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it goes nowhere. It's totally gratuitous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that one specifically, like, that's the thing. Like, the first instance where the couple is hooking up is gratuitously sexual, but consensual. And you're like, okay, this is just like getting into softcore porn territory for no reason. And yeah, then you have that rape scene, which is like super cringy, and there's no reason for that scene at all. At all. Yeah. I think the best part, the reason I like picked this film is because of the twist of who the killer is. So spoiler alert.
Yes.
The guy who's the killer, who's like running into the main woman and then going and disappearing, but we know he's kind of actually the killer, isn't actually killing everyone. It's his twin brother, Hideki, who is this like telekinetic demon child living inside of his chest.
Like a fetus thing.
Yes.
I don't know.
And that,
yeah, it's like Quado.
Yes, it is. That's a good reference. I don't know. To me, that's the best fucking part of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Is that twist, which is kind of too late.
Which is funny because
I like too how they just expect you to just buy that.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's totally normal. Shit happens all the time.
It's what's funny is that the three of us, well, I'm not sure about you, Josh, if you have talked about liking the twist the best part, or as the best part, but then I, after watching it, I read reviews or people chatting about it, and a lot of them were like, the twist, they actually didn't like the twist because it came so far out of nowhere or stuff like that.
I saw that too, which is interesting because it's totally set up. The first scene is the guy watching the news reporter and saying, like, to his twin brother, whatever, like, oh, she looks like our mom. It's all set up. But I could see that where, like, I guess people just want to watch the stalk and slash.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, the twist is like the twist is, the only reason I would ever watch it again. I'm like, that last 15, 20 minutes is awesome.
And then somehow it buries itself in her.
Yes.
After, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also, the movie is probably 20 minutes too long.
Yes.
I was watching it this time. I was like, holy shit. Everyone else is dead, and now it's just this woman, and it's like 45 minutes in, like Craig said. And I'm like, man, we're not going to find that demon fetus child for another 45 minutes or whatever. Like, holy shit.
Yes, it was too long.
Yeah, there's a lot of wandering around that abandoned place to no end, basically.
Yeah. It doesn't, I don't know, it takes them a long time to find the specific areas, which, I don't know, at first it doesn't look like it was actually that big of a factory. I mean, it was big, but not in terms of how, it makes it look like it took them all day to kind of like scoping around too. Because they get there at 1 p.m. or something. They make a comment about it. And then it's nighttime before they really find the specific section, I guess.
Well, I think there was like underground stuff too, so
Okay.
it was pretty. I think there's a lot of logic put into this movie,
Yeah.
Craig. God damn it. The Fulci thing is interesting, Josh, because I was reading about this and I read that the guy who directed it, he said he hates horror movies and doesn't watch them, and supposedly he's never watched this film either. But somebody fucking watched Zombie.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus, yeah. I mean, and I wish I could describe the score thing that I'm talking about better than I am, but it just the same chunk of the score
Yeah.
Yes.
basically on repeat, but they just use different instruments to play the same exact thing. Like for Fulci, it's in the beyond, like nonstop, and there's just that's all I could think of is like this motherfucker really likes Fulci because it obviously the movie is not a giallo, but it kind of was.
Yeah.
And yeah, eyeball trauma and the fucking score thing. It's like you dude, I'm gonna have to call bullshit in that you either don't know Fulci or you know what I mean.
It could have been his either a production designer or cinematographer. I don't know, something that.
I feel like it's
Oh,
probably
yeah.
like promotional bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
I will say the best line in it for me that was, I don't know why, it was supposed to be the emotional scene when she finds one of the dead bodies. It's like the first, I think, dead body she finds after everything, and she says that she's sad because the character only was it Mammy, I think, or I don't know, that she only wanted to go home. That was her
Yes.
response, and it's like, yeah, of course she only wanted to go
Yes,
home.
I know.
That's what do you have to say? Oh,
Like she
and
was so innocent. Yeah,
Yeah.
the other one I think you're gonna bring up is the one that's just like she had a dinner date.
yeah. I feel so bad. That's it, basically. And it could be different that we're reading the subtitles, but they
Yeah,
kind
they
of
could
feel
be clunky subtitles for sure.
yeah. And then also the fact that the male character that goes with him gets the fast death off screen, and then all the women are, you get to see all of it.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. Yeah, that one woman who gets the spike, I think it's the first kill, who gets the spikes.
Yes.
It's like a spike comes out from the ground, but then there's like 6 more spikes from like every direction, and I was just like, what? Who set
Yeah,
up this
dude.
trap?
Seriously, and again, it's just like just with no like it's like yeah, just buy into that. That's how that shit works. Fucking random spikes coming at you.
That's in every abandoned factory I've ever been in.
I know, right? Yeah, it is hilarious where it's like she gets stabbed the one time, and then it's like, oh fuck, here comes another one. Where is that even coming from? How is that working like that? Fuck, here comes 2 more.
And it's not like they're fast either to really
No,
punch.
it's literally
like they're
moving
going
so slow.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else for us, Kyle? Or are we moving on?
I think we're moving on.
Oh, yeah.
We're moving on to Evil Dead Trap 2 Hideki 1992, or Hideki Evil Dead Trap 2. I saw it both ways. And this is directed by Izo Hashimoto, who co-wrote Akira of all things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this was my first time watching this movie. So I saw the first one, like, I don't know, this was probably my 3rd time watching that one. And I bought this Evil Dead Trap 2 on DVD, and I haven't watched it yet. So I figured now's the time. Okay, so I'll say what it's about. So it's follows a Japanese, kind of chubby Japanese girl who's a movie projectionist, and she's friends with a TV reporter, used to be pop star, who's like trying to set her up with her creepy friend. And it seems to be all dealing with this loner projectionist girl who everyone is trying to like set up with men, and then there's like weird men trying to sleep with her, and then she's also killing prostitutes and other women by cutting out their ovaries, and then later we discover that she had an abortion prior, and this is kind of like dealing with her trauma. But I actually kind of loved it. It doesn't really have anything to do with the first movie, other than the Hideki, like the demon fetus idea. I thought it was actually kind of fucking great. I'm gonna pass it to you guys.
No, I liked it a lot better. It's more where the other one was kind of this, as we've talked about excessively, this torture porn feeling type movie. This one does have more, I think, of an artistic quality to it. It feels like it. It was really cool to see too, because I mean, just across all countries basically, and in horror films, like it's usually a lot of good looking people, and here you have this movie where the main character is somebody that is overweight, and they're not just like a punchline or a trope. It was like really good. I don't know. It was interesting to see and to kind of have that.
That won me over immediately, and I was gonna to add to what you're gonna say. Also, she's not like comic relief. That's the other thing. It's always like a chubby person who's like the funny guy or whatever.
Yeah. No, I thought it was great, and no, there's a lot of really cool sequences in it. Again, we'll probably do spoilers, but I don't know if you really can. It's kind of, there's like her friend gets pregnant by the creepy guy too, and the creepy guy is married, and he lost a child who his wife is crazy thinking the child's still alive, but then the child does come back, and it's the child that I don't know. It's all over the place, but no. In comparison to the first one, I liked this one a lot more, and I'd probably watch it again. I think, and I would buy it.
Josh?
Yeah. So this was like a real movie as opposed to the first one. It's so funny to me that that it even has the same name and it's considered a sequel. I mean, I know the Hideki thing is like the one thing, that kind of carries over, but kind of similar to my Fulci comparison with the first film. This one to me was like mumblecore-ish before that was a thing. It's very art housey almost, especially considering, compared to the first movie, which was not at all. But it's a character piece. We have this character that we've already kind of mentioned is not in any way, shape, or form like your typical, especially female type character in any kind of cinema. And it's like, is she nuts or is she not nuts? Even though I think that kind of gets answered pretty easily. But it really reminded me of like this mumblecore type of film in that, it's very slow. There's not a lot of anything that really happens. Even like the murders that are going on kind of on the outskirts of the plot, you don't ever see a murder. It's always like the aftermath of it, so you don't even really get that kind of, I guess, action bits. So yeah, I liked this movie a lot more. It was just, it was like a real movie, with like thought behind it. And it did kind of throw me off a little when we get to the like final confrontation, which I did think was fucking amazing. But it didn't really fit, with the rest of it. and it lasted way longer than it needed to last. But it was, I mean, it was cool in that, I was not expecting that at all based on, the first whatever hour and 15 minutes of the movie. But it was really like out of left field. And I guess if these two movies have anything like going for them, it's completely coming out of left field with random shit. So yeah, this one was no different. And yeah, the like fight scene between the two women, which again, it had to have been like 15-20 minutes, and it was just so needlessly long, but I don't know, it worked. So yeah, I thought this film was much better than the first one, with actual like thoughts and motivation behind, some of it anyway. A lot of weird sex shit though.
But it seemed to have purpose, I think, a little bit more than.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, it definitely had more.
It was still like, a weird exploitation element, but they found a way to like tie it into the story, especially considering it's all about that girl's, Aki's, abortion that happens like prior to the movie, and it seemed like all the sexuality was like coherently tied together. It's interesting that you say that it doesn't, or I mean, we've all fucking said it has nothing to do with the other movie. I read somewhere that I think this may have been its own movie, and it was another marketing thing where they just took, which is ironic because Evil Dead Trap is stealing from Evil Dead, and then they're just like tacking it on other movies. And apparently they made a third one, and that one is the same thing where it has nothing to do with anything, and it's just attacked on Evil Dead Trap 3.
I know probably initially it was supposed to help, but it feels like that movie would have almost done better if it was not known as a sequel. I think it would have stood alone by itself for, it being good.
I agree. Yeah, it would probably be better known because it's definitely a standalone story regardless. And I noticed the same thing, Josh, of like, because the first murder is totally art house. Like, she passes by these prostitutes and one flicks a cigarette at her, and then later we see that prostitute servicing a customer and like going and smoking a cigarette, and then you see like these huge neon lights that they're by or whatever, and then Aki is there covered in blood, and then you just see that the prostitute is dead. But I like that style. I thought that was like way more interesting, where you're just kind of like, wait, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, and I mean, and complete different than anything that was shown in that first movie, where it was like, let's have this agonizingly slow death of this woman getting penetrated by 6 spikes. There's none of that in this part 2. So I thought it was great in the way that it was just real stylized, which to me is going to be better than showing 6 spikes penetrating a body. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's more.
There's always room for that, but
yeah, we're not trying to knock to our fans out there who love spikes. We love spikes too.
Yeah.
But it I think it also just felt unique because like watching a lot of low budget horror movies, they usually don't take that stylistic approach, like you're just kind of like, oh, I'm not surprised you went that way with it. But I mean, I could go on and on. I don't know. Do you guys have anything else? I'm looking at my notes here.
No, not that I think.
I really liked the relationship between the projectionist girl, who's obviously, we've said, is not really attractive, is not your typical protagonist, who's friends with the good looking girl, who's constantly like trying to set her up, then also kind of putting her down.
Yeah.
And then like asking if the guy slept with her, and then not wanting the guy to sleep with her, even though she like thought of it in the first place. And then later on, like when you do find out about her abortion, the her best friend's like, well, I had an abortion too. And you're just like, God, you're a total fucking bitch.
Well, they kind of, so I think on Last Drive-In, he talked about it a little bit. So she was a pop star before, but in Japan, what they basically have is these teenagers or young people that are pop stars are, how do you, like, in the same way that people are Instagram, what are social media, what are they called?
Influencers.
Yeah, it's basically they're just there to be famous.
Yeah.
But you can only do that until you're like 25. So once you pass, a certain age. So then, these people will retire from that celebrityism, I guess, if that's a word. Is that a word? Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll retire from that at a very young age. And then
yeah,
I think that's what she would, yeah.
Yeah, then you have this person who's used to being a celebrity who's now not getting that treatment.
Yeah.
But I thought it was like, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was like a good portrayal of what some like toxic female relationships are actually like.
Yeah.
And it was also just interesting that it was like she's constantly putting down her friend. And then we see, of course, her friend who's now treated like, so terribly. And the only time like anyone else is talking to her is this dude's just trying to sleep with her, who don't even really like, it's like they aren't attracted to her. They just want to have her sexually for some weird reason.
Yeah.
It seems like. But then she's going around like, basically robbing these other attractive prostitutes and schoolgirls, cutting out their ovaries and essentially robbing them of their sexual power and ability to have a child. Because later, we find out that she lost her child. I don't know. I thought all that was like, holy shit, this is really well written for not at all what I expected.
And more weird sex stuff.
Yes.
That's what this episode is called. And more weird sex stuff.
Evil sex trap.
I did think it was fucking hilarious too, that one scene where what's the friend's name? Just so I don't keep
Emmy. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the one scene where Emmy is having that party at her apartment, and she's got all of her friends over there, these people that we don't even need to know who they are, but the dude like whips out a bag of Coke, and her only question is, isn't it a little too early to do Coke? And it's like, what the, are you serious?
Yes. Well, and then that other guy that's there, who we don't even know who he is, just starts hitting on Aki too, where you're just like, what? I don't know. He just
and like sitting really close to her and like being all fucking weird, and it's just like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. And I thought the climax was, I mean, we already talked about it, but the like fighting, especially when they're like fighting in the curtains, was like beautifully shot.
Yeah.
But it does, I mean, I do think also there was a point right before that climax where I was a little bit confused about what the fuck was happening anymore. When
that's what. Yeah. Oh no, I was just gonna say, one of the, again, after watching it, read some reviews on it, and that's one of the things that was brought up kind of constantly, were people saying, it has this plot, but then it just kind of, everybody seems to be finding themselves confused at some point in this movie.
But confused in a good way.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that that's true, but in this film, just because of, it is like much more art housey, which we've mentioned. So, that type of incoherence is almost, par for the course. Whereas in the first movie, it was just like, it's going along fine. I can totally understand what's happening. And then out of fucking nowhere, it's like, okay, this lost me.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way. Yeah. It already, I don't know. You were confused, but you weren't like, it was fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm gonna watch this again. I think I'm
Okay.
gonna go write a book on this movie. I'm obsessed with it now.
If you're interested in having Kyle write a book or more articles on Evil Dead Trap, the series, then send us social media requests. Like us on Patreon. Maybe that'll be
Send us
one of
some
our
money.
yeah. And we'll have Kyle do that.
Only for part 2.
Oh, okay.
And the last 10 minutes of part 1 when it becomes body horror. All right. Well, thanks for bearing with us and bearing with me for that double
Thanks.
feature.
If you've seen the movies, send us a comment on what you thought. If you haven't, but you want to watch them because of that, then again, comment and then join us the next normal episode, and it'll be Josh's pick. What are we watching, Josh?
I have no clue, but I was also going to say, if you want to watch Evil Dead Trap 1 or 2, good luck, fucker, because you can't even rent them on Amazon.
Yes, that's right. You have to contact me discreetly or just buy the DVD on like eBay.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Okay, so thank you for listening.
All right.
Bloodhound Pix podcast is produced by Josh Lee, Craig Dram, and Kyle Hintz. Music by Raymond Seed. Audio editing by Kyle Hintz.